Hey guys, it's Brian, and welcome to Brian Destroys Everything Live. Um, Tonight we're going to talk about some stuff that I've kind of been going over the last few videos, but it's really kind of a lot worse than it was. Um, I'm going to talk about the situation in Portland and some other things, um, including Republican congressmen lobbing insults at Democratic congressmen in public, which, so I'm going to start with the Portland thing. Now, I know in my last few videos, I've kind of been dumping on the cops, and I really have no issue with cops as long as they do their job and they do it fairly. But it goes back to a video I did about a month ago where I discussed how the federal government just adds a number of cops to its roster to random agencies equal to the current staffing levels of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms every year. And it has been going on for a decade to 15 years, since not long after 9/11. Now, the issue, I have no issue for an agency to have its own police force. I mean, obviously there are some that are questionable, like National Parks Police. But we'll leave it alone on specifics. But what's happening in Portland has crossed the line. Now, I know a lot of you didn't see my last video, but my last video, I actually specifically addressed this issue. And what's happening in Portland is similar to how the SS started in Germany. Now, the SS was a community agency in Germany during early in Hitler's parliament days. And if I remember correctly, the beer hall putsch was the first time they really got away with stuff that they normally wouldn't have gotten away with in normal times. And it devolved from there. Now, comparing Portland to that might seem a little extreme, but let's look at it. You have a bunch of guys and women in combat armor. They aren't wearing markings that they're cops, so you could just assume they're a local militia for all you know. And they're grabbing people and either using handcuffs or zip ties to restrain them, and then throwing them into unmarked vehicles and driving them off. Now, how it got out that it was federal agencies or whatever is irrelevant. And whether you believe that the police should be defunded or not, this is unacceptable. Because if you're just protesting, although I'm not sure how many people are just protesting because protesting has become standard, and I'll get into that in another video. But anyway, the fact that federal agencies are doing this with consent from the government makes this super problematic, because if it's acceptable and nothing is done about this when it happens in Portland, how many other cities in the U.S. that still have protests? I think they've kind of died down here in San Francisco, but I mean, what about LA? What about Chicago? What about New York? I mean, if this becomes a prevalent thing, then it starts to spiral out of control, because without a check on these particular actions by the federal government or the local government or whatever, you're going to see an uptick in this. And this is just a further dissolution of the freedoms we thought we had and don't. And I don't want to seem any more negative than I am, but we're at a point where we got to question what we're doing. Which brings me to my other topic for tonight, which is Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, lover or hater. I could leave her, to be honest, but her politics aren't the same as my politics. But 2 Republican congressmen accosted her on the front steps of the Capitol Hill and said a bunch of shit to her that probably shouldn't have been said. Other people heard it. It was reported on, and it's unprofessional. It's the Republicans rallying around Donald Trump, and if you're a Republican, you kind of, leave it in private if you're going to say something. Don't. It's a bad look, and it gets worse because one of the reports was they started railing on her for a speech she made at the beginning of this month about how racism and inequality are directly tied to disproportionate resources being allocated towards wealthier people rather than poor people. And in reality, regardless of what was said, it's not only unprofessional, it's cowardice, 100%. And it reinforces my belief that the so-called party of Lincoln has become the party of Arnold. And what I mean by that is they aren't the party of Abraham Lincoln. And I don't know what caused their fundamental shift from liberalism to conservatism, because in 1865, the Republicans were the liberals, not the Democrats. And I don't know what caused that fundamental shift, but that's where it is. And so they ceased to be the party of Lincoln when they switched from liberalism to conservatism. But now they are actively attempting to sell out our country to foreign powers. And so they are the party of Arnold instead of the party of Lincoln. And instead of trying to sell us out to King George, they are selling us out to the Vladimir Putins and the Kim Jong-uns and the Philip Dutertes and Jair Bolsonaros and the Recep Tayyip Erdogans of the world. And it's that simple. If you are taking action to protect people like that and to act like people like that, you just invite tyranny on yourself. And the sad part is that most Republicans don't get, oh, well, if we suppress what the majority want, which is really how it is, if we suppress what the majority want, then we'll keep our power, blah, blah, blah. The problem is that once you've achieved that in totality, you become the enemy. And you've already shown that you're a traitor. You've already shown that you're a coward. You've already shown that you're a bully. And people don't have truck with that. People will feel sorry for you, but they won't have a truck with it. So Anyway, that's my rant for this evening. For those of you who are watching still, I'm doing well. I've gotten a little under the weather from the weather change in here in San Francisco, but it seems to be normal summer stuff instead of anything COVID related, which I'm hoping still, but we'll see. I will see you Thursday. Have a great night, and hopefully I'll have lighter conversation to have on Thursday. Thanks.